Today we're going to find out how does Bardstown's latest release, the Discovery 12, stands up to probably the bottle that has been most hyped in recent history from Bardstown. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Bourbon Retriever, and today is a great day because we get to taste through some of my favorite releases from the Bardstown, and it is their Discovery series. Today we're going to talk about the Discovery 12. It is coming in at 115.2 proof, and on the side, what I love about these bottles is they actually lay out the mash bills and the percentages of those components along with how old they are. They can't tell you what distillery they're from, they say what state they're from, but if you do a little bit of research on the mash bills, you can get a decent idea of what they are. So in this blend, you have 48% of 4-year-old Kentucky, that is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Now everyone thinks that is wild turkey. That has been the rumor mill. Given NDAs, they can't confirm that, but that has been the rumor. Next biggest percentage of the blend is 29% Kentucky. This is the 70% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malted barley. That is most associated with Heaven Hill's Elijah Craig barrel proofs. So that would be my guess of what that is. And then lastly, they also do a 15% Kentucky blend of 78% corn, 13% rye, 9% malted barley, and a 8% blend of their own juice. They're starting to add in a lot of their own juice to these blends, and their goal is to actually have more and more of the blend to be their own stuff going forward. So I'm excited to see how that goes because their stuff is really good at 6 to 7 years old as it is now. So I'm excited to see how it is when it gets older. And the Bardstown in this one is their 4-grain, which is their corn, the rye, the wheat, and malted barley. So how do they compare to the Discovery 11? The proofs are pretty similar. The Discovery 11 is 118 proofs. They're about 3 proofs off, which isn't much. The blends are very similar though. So what I was talking about earlier, that Kentucky blend from what people were guessing is turkey. It's also in the 11. It's only at 13 years old instead of 14 years old. And then it also includes the other Kentucky, which is the 78% corn, 13 rye, and 9% malted barley. But it's not including the Elijah Craig mash bill Kentucky release. And the Bardstown is a different release of theirs. The one in the 11 is their 60% corn, 20% wheat, 12% malted barley. The other big difference here is the percentages. So the 11 here is 73% that turkey product that's allegedly in it, whereas in this one it's only 48%. Now for the price on these bottles, they are suggested MSRP of $139.99. I was able to get the 11 last year on a discount. I think it only cost me maybe $120. Maybe I even got a little lower than that. They were all over the shelves here in the DC area. However, the 12 this year has been very hard to get. The rumor is that it's about a third of the release, which I'm actually okay with because it is including older Kentucky juice. I'd much rather have this be a much smaller release and actually have high quality released juice. A lot of their older releases they did that were like the 5, 6, 7, 8s, those were including Canadian whiskey or something else that just wasn't as nice. You are able to make the bigger blend that way, but the end product just wasn't as good as the 11. Before we get into the review of these bottles, if you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you don't miss any content going forward. I'm gonna be trying to put out 2 videos a week, and I'm gonna include some reviews, list bottles. They're gonna have some good videos coming out, so you're not gonna wanna miss it. So with all the background information out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into these and see what they taste like. All right, on to the aroma. Cheers. Okay, the first thing that I'm noticing on this to me is a very dark cherry, maybe like a baked cherry or one that has been stewed for a little bit, and then also that oak notes coming in on the background. Now, I don't know if this is because I mentioned the ECVP earlier, but I'm getting a lot more Heaven Hill notes in this aroma. Yeah, it really is, to me, just like a more proof down Heaven Hill product. But yeah, I am digging that aroma. This is very different though when I first opened it. When I first opened it, everything was very tight and these notes weren't as prominent. especially that cherry note. This was coming across a lot thinner, but now that it's opened up, that cherry and that deep oak note are really coming through and becoming very pungent, and I am rather enjoying it. All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump into the palate. All right, my first notes are I was getting pecan, and then just a lot of burn. This is my first drink of the day, so I'm gonna drink a little bit of water and then do a second sip. You can't judge a whiskey on the first sip when it's definitely your first whiskey of the day. On the palate, I'm getting a different fruit sensation. I'm getting closer maybe to an apple, like maybe an apple pie, baked apple pie with drizzled caramel on top and a little bit of vanilla frosting maybe on top, and a little bit of that cinnamon sprinkled in there a little bit. Yeah, this is 100% to me an apple pie with all those notes coming through. Along with the bread crust, it's not a youthy bread graham cracker. Like a lot of times when I hear reviewers say graham cracker bread, I'm thinking more youthful or grainy. This is not that at all. This is that savory pie crust that has been soaked in the goodness of the pie and is just absolutely delicious. On the back end is where that caramel and vanilla notes I was mentioning earlier about the pie. Almost maybe like that whipped cream you put on the end. That's a nice dessert finish is what I'm getting. Those oak notes are there on the palate, but it's definitely to me more of like a background note. The sweet notes are the most prominent thing coming forward on this bottle for me right now. It is very weird to me that I'm getting a different fruit note on the aroma versus the palate. Typically they align for me. So the fact that I'm getting like a cherry on the aroma but an apple pie on the palate is a little weird and like kind of messing my head a little bit. I even gone back to this a couple times and I'm still getting that cherry note on the aroma. So I don't know what that is. If you guys others out there have that same experience, let me know. But this is a bizarre effect to me right now. It's almost like when you go to one of those restaurants and the food looks like a hot dog or something, but it actually is corn or some other type of food, and it messes with your mind. I know those are popular several years ago. I don't know if they're still a thing, but it's like almost like one of those effects. So after tasting the Discovery 12, what is my grade? I'm gonna say that this to me is a buy. This has been a really good, it actually surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. And I hate to say how much I'm enjoying it because I know this was a much more limited run, and I just don't want to drive the FOMO hype more on it. I'm gonna be honest, this is not a bottle that you need to be paying way up on secondary for. I really enjoyed it. I think it is good for the price it is at. What you have to keep in mind is there will always be more whiskey. These distilleries are pumping out tons and tons of whiskey, putting in the barrels, letting them age. And if you miss this release or you miss other releases, there's always gonna be another release right behind it. It seems like there's a new bottle of whiskey coming out almost every week, especially this time of year with allocation season. There are just a ton of LE bottles coming out. So if you got this bottle, I don't think you're gonna be disappointed in it because it is very good. But if you also weren't able to get it, don't have too much FOMO because there's always gonna be other bourbons out there. But is Discovery 11 an alternative to Discovery 12? At least in my area, Discovery 11s are still sitting on the shelf. So if you weren't able to get Discovery 11, let's see if if you weren't able to get Discovery 12, let's see if Discovery 11 is an alternative. Cheers. Yeah, and the aroma of 11 is very different than 12. 11 is much more brighter and fruit forward. I'm getting the green apple on this with almost very little oak notes, whereas I got a lot more oak notes on the 12. 12 still does have those fruit notes, but 11 is just much more brighter. And again, I don't know if this is just getting in my head with 70% of 11 being allegedly turkey juice, but I'm getting that light fruit note you get on maybe like a Rare Breed or a 101. Yeah, so whereas 12, I would probably be more in line to drink that in the fall. This 11 would be much more, in my mind, like a good springtime, maybe summer drinker. But let's go ahead and jump into the palate. Yeah, the two big notes for me on the 11 is I'm getting a lot of orange zest along with cinnamon. Those are very prominent to me on the back end with this whiskey. Yeah, that cinnamon is in the mid palate, really ramps up, and then the lingering long finish to me is just that quintessential like orange zest. Like when you're making an old fashioned and you spritz the brine, you just take that orange, you peel off the outside layer of it, and then you kind of break it as you put it onto an old fashioned glass, and it sprints out all those, I don't know, what is that called? I don't know, people will probably mocking me right now, but it's just a kind of aerosols a little bit on the glass. That is exactly what I'm getting here on the end palate. Yeah, again, I'm not getting a lot of oak on the palate on this one either. A lot of people describe this as like a Russell's 13-esque. I don't think so. The Russell's 13, 15 are much oakier and to me very different than the 11. Yeah, I just went back and forth on the palate a little bit, and 12 is just much sweeter. That caramel bomb is much more pungent, whereas the 11, while it has those sweet notes, it's more underlying and more fruit forward than whereas caramels on that front. What blows my mind is how different the 11 and 12 are, especially considering the mash bills. They include a lot of the same sourced whiskey in these blends, but the art of blending that they did down at Bardstown, these turned into just drastically different drinks in my opinion. They both are very good. So if you did not get a 12, just grab an 11. It is a very good whiskey. It is going to be a different drinking experience than the 12, but these to me are both good buys at $140. So that's my review of the Disco 12. But if you're enjoying this content, before you head out, make sure you check out this video or this one. And until next time, cheers.